Hey, everybody, this is Lisa Mills, and you're listening to Icon Fetch.
Welcome to Icon Fetch, the web's premier music interview show. Now, here's your host, Tony Peters.
Hey, thanks for checking out another show. I am Tony Peters. Some of the best music out there, you gotta dig a little deeper to find. Case in point, North Carolina native Seth Walker, who blends elements of folk, blues, soul, and rock into his music. He's just released his 9th album, and for it, he's decided to go back to his roots, making a record with the very people who helped start him on his musical path. Now, his dad helped arrange the strings on the record, while his mom and sister both play violin.
Call my name, I'll come running, sunshine or rain.
The album, appropriately titled Gotta Get Back, is one of his finest to date. And to talk about it, we welcome Carolina native Seth Walker. How are you, man?
Pretty good. How you doing, Tony?
Good, man. Good to talk to you again. And here we are with album number 9. Now, as I look in the liner notes, it says here, you say that sometimes you have to remind yourself why you started something in the first place. So, what do you mean by that?
Oh, I mean, I guess, it happens when you do something long enough, anything long enough, it's the forest for the trees kind of thing. And you kind of lose sight of it. You lose perspective on what you're doing. At least it definitely happened for me. I felt like I was, after 8 albums, and I was trying to get back into the groove to write for this album, and I don't know. I just felt like I was like trying to steer the muse,
and
right. Okay.
And
you can't steer a muse. It's got to steer you,
right?
So it's a slippery slope, but. The point being, I did have to remind myself of what was that fire in me that got me going, down this path in the first place.
Back around, we ain't nearly done. We are forever bound to come, yes, to come back around.
So when you talk about that, it kind of naturally starts with going back to your parents then, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, that wasn't the, when I started writing the songs, that actually came later.
Okay.
But it was obviously a natural progression for that to happen, which it was, I don't know why, Tony, we didn't do this sooner. I mean, this was my 9th effort, and, both my parents are amazing musicians themselves, and my sister's a great violinist, but we never, they're kind of more in the classical world, and my dad's into Irish fiddling and stuff, and I'm over here in this blues soul world, and so we never really had anything that we could play together, at least in the last couple decades. So this was a perfect opportunity for us to do that. And my dad, he heard what happened was, man, he heard a couple of these demos that I had for the new record. He's like, man, I got ideas. I got ideas for you, boy.
Right, nice.
And then we were off to the races, man. And it really brought us together closer than we ever have. To collaborate with my family on that was very, very special.
But I'm a dreamer. I got a wide imagination that I'm running with. I'm a dreamer.
When you talk about going back to the roots too, when you're starting the writing process for this, was there one particular song that kind of, that happens sometimes when you're working on something, you have like one particular song that just kind of like jumpstarts everything?
Yeah, it actually was the title track, Gotta Get Back, which is the next to last tune on the record.
I've lost my way.
that tune is specifically speaks to that getting back to the muse thing.
Right.
And then that tune I had written, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, and it when I was getting this thing back together, or getting this album together, I kind of rediscovered that song. I was like, oh man, that tune. And when I started listening back to it, it just completely became it jump-started the rest of the bag of tunes. It really did.
Nice.
And I didn't even realize that it wasn't like it was a concept album or anything. I didn't realize how many songs on the record kind of have a similar sentiment or motif,
right,
if you will. And until after I was looking back, I was like, God, all these songs are about moving or getting back or home again, or it's high time we had a high time together. It's kind of funny how subconsciously they're all kind of connected. Moving on. Moving on.
Right, absolutely. And what you're saying is some of these songs are not necessarily of the same time period as far as writing them, right?
No, it spans a couple years.
Right. Okay.
Got to get back being the oldest one.
Okay.
In sequence, and then, but there was the lion's share of them. I got on a roll and wrote them pretty quick. Sometimes it's like that. I mean, sometimes you got, and sometimes, God, sometimes you got to dance with them a lot longer. Like Sound of Your Voice, in particular, I had to dance with that one for a while before I got it corralled.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes they got to simmer for a while on the stove, kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to come back to it.
Right.
You got to get, you got to get back.
Right.
Way past midnight in the early morning.
Now, I mean, if I ask you about a couple of the songs, it opens up with High Time, and it's got some really crazy harmonies going on, and I'm wondering, like, when you're writing a song like that, do the harmonies come right away, or is that something that you're doing while you're recording and go, hey, this would be cool?
It's high time. We had a high time together.
Man, that honestly, that was like a happy accident. I mean, that whole tune, I had no idea that was going to come out like that. We just cut that sucker, and it was pretty much done. And I remember telling John, I was like, I got an idea. I just want to go and just double the vocal. Just let me try it. He was like, okay, And then it just became a thing. And then there was these little harmony things that I did that I don't even remember doing, planning.
Right.
It's like what just happened?
Right.
Okay, I guess we'll keep it.
Right. Otherworldly. It's kind of otherworldly, It's like,
yeah, it's always like a every now and then as an artist, it's like you just sitting there, and it's like some kind of a channel.
Right. Yeah. You just step back and let it happen. That's what it is.
It's just a channel.
Right. That's cool. Now,
you just gotta make sure it's tuned in.
Right. You got to make sure the tape's rolling. That's the biggest thing. So
that's the biggest thing.
So sometimes that's bad when we didn't get that on tape. Oh man, come on. So
it happens so many times. Like when we're like, sometimes we'll be in the studio just rehearsing the tune, and we'll get this like thing going, and I'm like, dang, why aren't we recording this? A lot of engineers they'll just record the whole day.
Yep.
Because they don't want to miss anything.
Let me ask you about Fire in the Belly, because the percussion on that is just monstrous.
I've got fire in the belly. I've got fire in the belly to get next to you.
Yeah, that tune I wrote in New Orleans. And it's a nod to that New Orleans has that that straight and swung feel, and just in their everyday life. It's like the push and pull of New Orleans, and that's exactly what rhythmically what is the center of that tune. And it's actually, to answer your question specifically, when we cut it, Jono played drums on that track and did it a little bit more conservatively. It was just like all on the snare drum, and we wanted some more hair on it. So he went back in with this nasty shaker. It's like the shaker full of like bolts. And like,
nice. All right.
I don't even know what the hell is in this shaker.
Right.
It's
nice.
like, you know, and we set these room mics up, and we played the tape back, and he just played it's so wrong, it's right.
Right. Pretty raw there. That's cool.
It's very raw. It matched the vibe of, I mean, it's fire in the belly, man. It's got to have some. Yeah.
Right, it's got to have some fire in it. So
got to have some grits on it.
Right. So back around, kind of gospel infused.
Back around, it's always gonna come back around. We ain't nearly done.
Did you have any? I mean, you talk about how you were influenced by a lot of things growing up. Did you get gospel as a young kid, or did that come later?
Not gospel. We were not church-going folks. We were actually, I was raised kind of quasi-Quaker, if you will.
Okay.
When I was out in North Carolina, I lived on a commune, in a log house commune with my parents and another couple. And they had a family of 3, and I had a sister, so it was 9 of us living. And they were really, it was early 70s, and they were into, you know, it was the 70s, baby.
Right.
You know, they loved going to Quaker meeting. That's actually where they met. You know, they were into the silent meeting, which I've always dug. So I didn't really go to church per se, but that being out there was very spiritual, and through the years, you know, gospel music. You listen to Ray Charles, who's probably my biggest influence ever. You know, gospel music is, you know, cornerstone to so much of popular music that we listen to now.
Yep, absolutely
all connected. So I think back around. This kind of was born from my influence, you know.
Right. Now, I love Call My Name. I think that's my favorite song on the record.
Call my name, I'll come running, sunshine or rain. I'll be there wherever you are, ever you are, ever you are. Yes, wherever you are, ever you are, ever you are. You just call my name.
Very soulful. And then I notice on the songwriting credit it says Cash and Walker, but that's not like a relative of Johnny Cash or anything.
Oh no. That's a guy named Ed Cash.
Ed Cash. All right. Okay. Yeah, well.
He's a dear friend of mine from Nashville, and I was over at his house. He had got me to sing on a Christmas tune he had written, and we got done early, and we were both talking about Donny Hathaway, how much we both love Donny, and he sat down at the Wurlitzer piano, and I had the guitar, and then about a couple hours later, we had us a little song.
Oh man, yeah. That's great tune.
Oh, thank you.
Now, you know, some of the best tracks on the record are again with your collaboration with Gary Nicholson. I mean, this dude is like one of the most underrated guys in Nashville, I think. When you guys get together, I mean, I think I'm counting 5 songs on the record. Are those the results of like a monster writing session with Gary, or are these things that kind of, you know, you get a chance to see him over time?
It's over time. I mean, there was a a season of our relationship that we wrote a ton. I was living in Nashville during that time, and I wrote a ton of music with him. And he was the first writer, I mean, he's a professional songwriter. I mean, he is just, the first guy that I worked with that, I mean, he really helped me be a better writer. Specifically with these songs, like High Time. High Time we wrote in Nashville. Fire in the Belly I wrote with him in New Orleans. And some of the other ones are actually are nuggets of ideas that we had in the past. Sometimes that's the way songs appear and reappear. You'll get just like a little like the back around idea was something that was born a while back that I came back to.
Nice. Okay.
And so yeah, it's to answer your question, it's kind of all of the above as far as Gary and I goes.
Nice. I have to ask you about one more. The sound of your voice.
When I'm down, is the sound of your voice.
The thing that I love about that is at the end of it, it just kind of seems to build, and then you just got to have this groove going on at the end where it just kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's like kind of an extended groove at the end of the record kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. That song was a journey. When I first wrote it, the idea of it was just a 3-chord song, blues kind of bass, honestly. And then I was in New Orleans, and I went to see Stevie Wonder perform at the Superdome. I'd never seen Stevie before.
Wow. How many years ago was this?
This was probably, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago.
Okay. Nice. All right.
And man, he just changed my mind on so many things. I was just like, oh my God, this guy. I mean, his sense of melody and just grew. I mean, it's like Stevie Wonder. And so I got back to the house, sat on my balcony, and I basically rewrote the melody and progression of that tune. And when I presented that, I showed that to my dad, and all those changes definitely kind of lend itself to strings. That got that ball rolling. And then when we got in the studio, the song, it's a kind of a bear to try to figure out what's the best way to represent that song, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we it took us about 2 or 3 different versions, Tony, to kind of come up with the one you're hearing on the record. And I'm so glad that we picked that one because it turned that extended jam with that organ flying high and Chris Woods on the bass. It soars like the sound of your voice, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and you mentioned the organ. It's interesting because it seems like the last record was kind of more of a guitar record, you know, and this record has a lot of organ on it. Is that like a conscious thing, or is it just kind of a happy accident?
Definitely not a conscious thing, I think. Jono, the producer, is a piano player. I mean, he's playing most of those keyboards on the record. So a lot of them were. It's funny because the piano parts, it's not like jamming piano as much as parts, actual compositional, parts that he's come up with. In that song in particular, he is wailing on it on the B3.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think we're just trying to accompany the song in the best way we can, and sometimes that's with guitar being the lead, and sometimes it's not.
Right. Yeah. Well, just whatever works.
Sake of the song, baby.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you're doing some shows. I noticed, like, looking on your website, SethWalker.com, you got some shows in Texas coming up.
Yeah,
so
I do.
That's got to get back to Texas then. So
yeah, I was there for 15 years. I mean, that's where I really got my professional career going. I was so eaten up with Stevie Ray Vaughan in college. I was like, it was like the pilgrimage, man. I was like, I'm going to Austin.
Now, did you ever see him in concert?
No.
Oh, really? Okay.
I missed it.
He came to Raleigh. You know, you said you're from that kind of neck of the woods. He came to Dorton Arena, which is over there, the North Carolina State Fair. They had sand or whatever as the floor. I mean, this is a lousy place to see a concert, but it was Stevie Ray Vaughan, and it was Lonnie Mack opened up, and I'm telling you what, man.
Oh, God.
Jeez.
Yeah,
it was
amazing.
That was one of those. I have never stood at a concert with my mouth open the whole time. I probably looked like a complete idiot. It was just like...
Well, that's the way I felt. That's the way I felt when I first discovered him. I grew up playing classical music, as I was saying, and when I got to college, all these guys in my dorm room were listening to Stevie, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, and I just, I never went to class. I would just sit around with my electric guitar, and I would just, 2 years later, I dropped out of college. And I was just pulled. And I beelined it to Austin with my guitar and my little Volkswagen van, and really got to learn from some of that generation that Stevie grew up with. They're still kicking it down there, and they opened my ears and eyes to all the people that influenced him.
Right.
So getting back to Texas next week is going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, Seth, it's been great talking to you. The brand new CD is called Gotta Get Back from Seth Walker. And we can't wait to see you on the road, man. It'll be great.
Yeah, thank you for the time, Tony.
Hey, it's Seth Walker there, and I'm telling you what, you know how hard it is to find an artist that consistently puts out good albums? These days, that's not easy to do. And Seth's new CD, Gotta Get Back, is one of our favorites of 2016. You can go to our website, iconfetch.com, and read a review and then check it out. Well, until next time, I am Tony Peters. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
You've been listening to Icon Fetch with Tony Peters. Want more great interviews? Head over to iconfetch.com. There, you'll find every interview we've ever done, plus CD reviews, This Day in Music, and a random album of the day. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Who is Tony going to interview next? It could be you. Send what you've got to Tony Peters. Icon Fetch, P.O. Box 292134, Dayton, Ohio 45429. Or email Tony at host@iconfetch.com. Until next time, this is Joe Kelly. Have a great day.